Have you ever felt that, even surrounded by people, your place in the world seems disconnected? As if there were a call within you, but the noise of the normal drowns out that voice. Many who consider themselves chosen carry this sensation, a constant restlessness, a weight of not belonging. My dear friends, a very good morning and welcome. Today, I want to invite you to a deep reflection. Why do some people, the so-called chosen ones, find it so difficult to adapt to the world around them? Perhaps you have felt disconnected, as if something greater is waiting for you beyond what is considered normal. On this journey, let's explore together the reasons behind this feeling and discover how to transform this difference into strength and purpose. Stay with me until the end. This message may change your perspective. Before we continue, I want to ask you to share your testimonies and experiences, your requests, and your intentions for blessings in the comments. This is a space for us to connect with God and the universe in a community of faith and purpose. Your story may inspire others who are also seeking answers and strength in their journeys. Don't forget to like this video so that this message can reach more people, and subscribe to the channel to receive content that strengthens your soul and illuminates your path. Because together, we are stronger. Being chosen does not mean superiority, but sensitivity. The chosen perceive what others ignore, question what seems obvious, and seek purpose in a world that often settles for superficialities. And this search creates tension, the difficulty of adapting. Imagine a young person at a social gathering. Everyone laughs at trivial jokes, talks about fleeting topics, but they feel the emptiness of the words, as if something deeper is missing. Their mind travels to larger questions. What's the meaning of all this? Where is the purpose? Or think of the person who, at work, seems unable to accept the mechanical and repetitive routine. While others conform, they wonder, weren't we made for something more meaningful? This restlessness is not weakness, but a symptom of seeing beyond appearances. The chosen live with their feet in two worlds: the physical, where rules and social expectations dominate, and the spiritual, where higher values demand attention. This conflict makes them feel like foreigners, even among their own. It's common for the chosen to feel misunderstood. Friends say, "Why do you make things so complicated? Just enjoy life." But how can they enjoy something that seems so distant from their inner calling? The search for truth always speaks louder. Imagine someone walking into a room full of people. For most, it's just a social moment, but for the chosen, it's an intense reading of energies, hidden intentions, and unspoken emotions. While others relax, they feel overwhelmed. The difficulty of adapting to the normal world is often a reflection of the incompatibility between the depth of the chosen one's soul and the superficiality that predominates. It's like trying to listen to a symphony while the noise of traffic invades your ears. But don't confuse this difficulty with incapacity. The chosen are not weak. They are deeply connected to something greater, something the world often doesn't understand or value. And this connection, though challenging, is their greatest treasure. Loneliness is also a constant challenge. Many chosen ones feel there's no space for their ideas or feelings in common circles. However, it's in solitude that they find answers others don't even know to seek. This journey may seem heavy, but it is necessary. After all, those who are chosen were not born to conform, but to transform, to question the status quo and open doors to new understandings. And if you're reading this and feel something resonating, perhaps this message is for you. Perhaps you're one of the chosen, seeking meaning in a world that, for many, simply is. The journey is challenging, but there's purpose in the path. Being chosen is like walking through a dense forest while everyone else follows a paved road. The forest is uncertain, full of obstacles, but it's there that the deepest secrets are revealed. It's there that truth flourishes, even though few have the courage to enter. Think of the person who has never fit the conventional standards of success. They question the obsession with money, status, and appearance. While others chase the material, they feel these achievements are like sandcastles, collapsing at the slightest touch of the tide. The chosen one is also someone who feels intensely. In a casual conversation, they pick up on unspoken pains and hidden joys. It's as if their heart is an antenna, tuning into frequencies others don't perceive. This makes them empathetic, but also isolates them. Imagine someone who, from childhood, felt the world around them was just a part of something much larger. While other children played, they looked at the sky, wondering what lay beyond. This curiosity never disappeared. It only matured. In the workplace, the chosen often stand out for thinking outside the box, but instead of being celebrated, they're often seen as complicated. After all, it's easier to follow a system than to question it, and they question it. There's also a sense of time that feels different. While the world rushes at a frantic pace, the chosen feel they're on another frequency. They know haste doesn't lead to depth and prefer to reflect before acting, which can be mistaken for slowness. Many chosen face criticism for not following the manual of life. They don't just want to marry, have kids, and work until retirement. They want to find purpose, create something meaningful, leave an impact that goes beyond the ephemeral. This disconnect with the normal world also reflects in friendships. While others talk about fashion, TV shows, or gossip, the chosen yearn for discussions about the meaning of life, the universe's connection, and the mysteries of the soul. A powerful metaphor is to think of the chosen as a lighthouse in the middle of a storm. It illuminates, but its solitude is inevitable. Few reach it, but many are guided by its light without even knowing where it comes from. Despite the difficulties, the chosen have something that sets them apart: resilience. Every obstacle faced strengthens them. Every rejection teaches them. Every moment of misunderstanding brings them closer to their essence. It's important to remember that there's no failure in being different. On the contrary, the chosen are the ones who pave the way for others. While the world moves on autopilot, they plant seeds of change, often invisible but essential. And perhaps the greatest lesson is this: the normal world may never understand the chosen, but that doesn't mean they are wrong. Their mission is greater, their journey unique, and it's this difference that makes them true agents of transformation. For the chosen, the greatest challenge may not be the world's rejection, but accepting their own nature. For years, many try to fit in, suffocating who they really are. And in this attempt to adapt, they lose the connection with the purpose that makes them unique. Imagine a river forced to run through a narrow channel. It may flow for a while, but its true strength and beauty only manifest when it returns to its natural course. So it is with the chosen. Their essence was not made for artificial limits. One of the keys for the chosen is learning to balance. Yes, the world demands conformity in certain areas, but that doesn't mean you have to abandon your uniqueness. It's possible to navigate the normal without losing focus on your greater mission. Simple practices like meditation or moments of solitude can help the chosen reconnect with their essence. When the world's noise tries to extinguish their light, introspection is where they find the strength to shine again. Another step is recognizing that discomfort is a sign of growth. Every situation where you feel you don't fit is, in fact, an invitation to explore your potential. Discomfort is not an enemy, it's a disguised teacher. Many chosen find purpose in helping others. Teaching, inspiring, or simply being present for someone can transform their isolation into an act of service. After all, what is light, if not something that illuminates the path for others? It's also important to build support networks. While few understand the chosen's path, those who do become valuable allies. Finding people with similar souls creates a space where you can be yourself without masks. that writing, art, or any form of creative expression can also be powerful channels for the chosen. Putting their visions and feelings into the world allows others to connect with their unique perspective, even if they never fully understand it. Remember that your journey is necessary. Without those who question, the world would stagnate. Without those who see beyond, humanity would lose its connection to the transcendent. Your difference is a gift, not a curse. And when doubt arises, and it will, remember that the greatest agents of change in history also faced isolation. They were ridiculed, ignored, but never gave up on their calling. You're in good company. Start small, but start. A gesture of kindness, a word of inspiration, an idea that breaks paradigms, all of this can be the seed of a greater transformation. The chosen don't need to do everything. They just need to do what they are meant to do. In the end, the world may never recognize your role, but true reward doesn't come from external applause. It comes from the peace of knowing you were faithful to your essence, to the mission entrusted exclusively to you. If there's one thing the chosen must always remember, it's that their journey was never meant to be ordinary. The discomfort they feel, the loneliness they face, are not signs of weakness, but reminders that their soul vibrates with a unique and elevated purpose. The normal world seeks comfort, stability, and conformity. But the chosen are called for something greater, to be the difference in a world that prefers monotony, to be the voice that echoes where the silence of superficiality reigns. The challenges you face are not obstacles that limit, but portals that challenge. Each challenge is an opportunity to strengthen your connection to your purpose and expand the light within you. Imagine yourself as a lighthouse in the middle of the ocean. Sometimes the waves are violent, the wind tries to extinguish your flame, but you remain steadfast. Your light, even if it seems small, guides those lost in the chaos. And if you feel disconnected from the crowds, it's because you were called to lead, not to follow. The leadership of the chosen is subtle, often invisible, but its impact is immense, touching souls in ways not always recognized. It's natural to question why the path is so challenging. But remember, gold only reveals itself after the fire. The greatest lessons come from the hardest moments, and the chosen learn to transform pain into strength, doubt into faith. There's no shame in being different. On the contrary, difference is what defines your essence. Accepting and embracing it is the first step to fully living your mission. The world needs your authenticity. For every soul that feels out of place, there is a purpose waiting. If you don't fit in, it's because your mission might be to shape something new, something only you can create. The chosen is both the sower and the fruit. In the end, the true meaning of being chosen is not about being understood by everyone, but about living in alignment with what your soul recognizes as true. It's not about pleasing the world, but about honoring the call that echoes in your heart. So, if today you feel lost, remember, the chosen are never truly alone. Your connection to the greater purpose is your anchor, your compass, your strength. Loneliness is just the pause before great accomplishments. The journey of the chosen is not linear, nor is it easy, but it is transformative. And in the end, you'll realize that every obstacle, every moment of doubt, was part of the plan to shape your soul and expand your light. And now, I ask you, what will you do with this call? How will you choose to live the purpose that pulses within your essence? The world may not be ready for you, but you are ready to transform it. Along this journey, we explored why the chosen find it difficult to adapt to the normal world. This feeling of disconnection, often seen as a burden, is actually a sign of your uniqueness and the greater purpose you carry. You are not here to conform, but to transform. Remember that the challenges you face are part of your growth path. Each challenge, each moment of doubt, is an invitation to dive deeper into your essence and strengthen your connection to the divine purpose. The world may not understand your journey, but your mission is vital. You are a light in the darkness, a guide for those who have not yet found their way. Embrace your difference, for it is the force that makes you unique. No matter how difficult the path is, you are never alone. The connection to the purpose that pulses within your soul is proof that there is something greater guiding your journey. Trust in your light, even when the world seems to challenge you. You can transform not only your reality, but also that of those around you. With each step, you leave an impact, even if it is not immediately visible. Persevere, for your mission is grand. If this message touched your heart, help spread this light. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone you know needs to hear this. Leave your experience or reflection in the comments. Together, we can create a space where the chosen find strength, inspiration, and purpose. My dear friends, thank you so much for your company in this video. We'll meet again in the next one, and may your journey be guided by light and wisdom. See you soon.